What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of The Breakdown, and let's get right into it. So LeBron James defeats the Toronto Raptors as it stands right now in this year's edition of Cleveland versus Lebronto, or I mean Toronto. My bad. It is 2-0, 2 games to nothing, and the game that we're just coming off of as I'm recording this is game 2, where the Cleveland Cavaliers have utterly just taken full command of this series, stripped home court away from the Toronto Raptors, the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and it doesn't matter. Toronto had the best record in the East. They won 59 games, had home court advantage, changed up their style of play to shoot more threes and to get shots up quicker, have added to their bench, and still yet they find themselves down 2 games to nothing to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And LeBron James owns the Toronto Raptors. The Cleveland Cavaliers own the Toronto Raptors. So I don't know how much longer this series is going to go. I mean, it could be a sweep. It could end in 5 because right now Cleveland has proven that they can beat Toronto anywhere, anytime. Because if they can beat them on the road, they can definitely beat them at home, where Cleveland plays a lot better at home than they do on the road. And, you know, this takes me back to some of my previous recordings, my previous videos, where I had said that Cleveland was going to beat Indiana, and everybody was trashing Cleveland as if there was something wrong with Cleveland, but nobody wanted to give Indiana any credit. Nobody wanted to give Indiana any credit. You can look at the media. You can look here on YouTube. Nobody wanted to give Indiana any credit. And I think it's time that now we start giving Indiana credit. You look through 7 games. Through 7 games, the Cleveland Cavaliers, outside of LeBron James, nobody scored 20 points or more. We're 2 games into this series with Toronto, and outside of LeBron James, there has been somebody at least score 20 points or more for the Cavaliers in both games. J.R. Smith adds 20 points in game 1. Kevin Love adds 31 points tonight. I mean, did Kevin Love score 31 points the entire series versus Indiana? I think he did, but how much more than 31 did he score? And he put in 31 in game 2 versus the Toronto Raptors. You guys need to give Indiana credit. I don't think Indiana got enough credit. Indiana was tough. They had some dog in them. They were gritty. And all those 3 things that I said, tough, dog, and being gritty, Toronto has none of those things. And you had guys on TV like Max Kellerman proclaiming that Toronto Raptors was going to the finals, that they was going to beat Cleveland. And as you guys see, Cleveland wasn't that bad. I just think Indiana was a lot better than what people give them credit for. Yeah, Indiana had the guys to be able to match up with LeBron James. Indiana had big guys that they didn't mind switching and playing them one-on-one with LeBron James. Sure, LeBron might have scored, but Indiana's big guys can move their feet. Unlike Valanciunas, unlike Serge Ibaka, unlike Podol, that other big man that comes in for Toronto. It's a mismatch every time it's a major mismatch every time they get switched on to LeBron James. It's a major mismatch when any of those guys have to guard Kevin Love on the perimeter, because it opens things up in the lane. All those things you didn't get with Indiana. With Indiana, LeBron James played the entire game, played the entire first quarter. If you've been paying attention in the first quarter against Toronto, this is how not worried Cleveland is about Toronto. In the first quarter against Toronto, LeBron James comes out with 3 minutes left in the first quarter. How many times did you see that versus the Pacers? I didn't. Unless my eyes tell me different, I didn't see it. In 2 games with Toronto, I've seen LeBron James exit to go to the bench in the first quarter with about 3 minutes to go on the clock. And the bench actually comes in and holds their own without LeBron James being on the court. That didn't happen versus Indiana, because Indiana was a lot tougher team. They were a lot better of a defensive team, and they were really just a bad matchup for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They had a lot more foot speed than the Cleveland Cavaliers. They had a lot more lateral quickness on their team from guards all the way to bigs. You don't have that with Toronto. Valanciunas is not laterally quick. He's not quick at all. Ibaka is not what he used to be. He's not laterally quick. Yeah, you've got DeRozan, you've got Lowry, you've got Van Fleet, but collectively this team is a lot more closer in athleticism to the Cleveland Cavaliers than they are the Indiana Pacers. And that's why the Pacers gave the Cleveland Cavaliers all that they wanted and more. Plus, the Indiana Pacers had that dog in them. Just like Boston Celtics have that dog in them. They're going toe-to-toe with the Philadelphia 76ers, another team who the media has said was coming out of the East. I don't believe it. As long as LeBron James is on Cleveland, I don't believe it. You have to show me. So, how long is this series going to go? Because I don't think it's a question whether if Cleveland's going to win the series. I just think it's a question of how long is it going to last. Is it going to be over in 4, or is it going to be over in 5, or is it going to be over in 6? I just don't see there be any way possible that Toronto can come back and force Game 7, and they'd have to somehow win 3 games on Cleveland's home court. So in order for Toronto to force Game 7, that means that there's only 2 games left in Toronto, and there's 3 games left in Cleveland. How's that going to happen? I don't see it. Unless there's like a major injury or something. That's the only way. You know, for a team that doesn't have any fight, any dog, and once again, now they realize they can't beat LeBron James. He looked like Michael Jordan out there with those fadeaways. He owns them. They should change the name of their city to Lebronto, like the caller, the guy who's calling the game on ESPN said it. Lebronto. It's the Lebronto Raptors. And his face should be on the logo in center court, because they cannot beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. So let me know how long you think this series is going to last, because we could be pulling out the brooms, but I got to see what happens in Game 3. But I know that Cleveland is going to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. So for all you guys that was hating, didn't think Cleveland was going to get this far, well, what do you have to say now? I'm out.